Hello, greetings fellow stationeers, and welcome back to Mimas with me, 54 Bear, where we are doing brutal survival on Mimas. Never get tired of those views. Such nice silhouettes. Really think I ought to build the base up this time rather than out, but we'll see. Okay, so we have a little bit of funkiness going on with these pipes, and I am going to have to rearrange some things, I think. Want to pull out the non-insulated pipes on this tank and put in a more robust, controllable cooling system. And speaking of such things, we should probably check on our water supply. Okay, so almost 8 litres in there. I have 560 odd moles in this one. Okay for fuel for the moment. This is building up quite nicely. Our filters should probably be okay. Yes, they are. Actually, what's the temperatures in here?
Hunger caution.
And of course I'm hungry. Alright, so the temperature is going down. I've only got a single radiator on it. But that's okay for the moment. I'm not in desperate need for water. In fact, I think I have some empty bottles over here that should probably be filled up. We'll take care of that. Alright, that's obviously going to reduce our water supply in there, but yeah, we can always make more. Okay, that's full. Turn that off. Okie dokie. Now, things that we need to get done. My battery is low. In fact, it looks like it's flat. So we will need to get the automation done on that. That's probably the first thing, because now I've got plants in there. Yeah, have to be a little bit more careful of the hab. Right, so I'll put this wire in place. This now connects the data output on the Stirling engine to the network, for the rest of the base. Because the battery's flat, I should just fire it up. So this room will heat up a little bit faster than I would like. I'm going to add some more radiators to it. Maybe make it another couple of grids larger. That may help. And maybe adding some more pressure to the cooling system. Do I have stuff to smelt? A little bit more. Well, I don't think I actually need anything right now. Oh, let's keep that closed just so that I don't do a silly. Yeah, and this is our last food bar. Yes. In fact, gone. I have no food. Official panic stations commence. Alright. So, first thing, actually we will check the potatoes. Okay, they're doing okay. Right, so first thing I'm going to want to do is control the battery. Control the generator. And to do that, the battery needs to see the network. So, let's see, do I have any heavy cables? Yes, I do. Excellent. So, need to do a little bit of rewiring. Now, three-way corner there. Whoops. and an upward pointing one there. So what this does, actually this should be a three-way corner as well, because I'll probably put a battery up on this one, on top. Right, I can live in there. So before I do anything else, I do need to connect this battery to the same network, because I'm going to want to read from it. Right, and we will do this by using the IC chip inside there. I'll write the code first. A very simple thing, hopefully. First thing I'm going to, because we're using the batch methods and not pins, I need to do a couple of defines. So my batteries, let's see, open up the Stationpedia, make it a little bit smaller. Alright, station battery, and when you're doing this, always be careful that you're not selecting the kit. Can't tell you how many hours of debugging, there we go, I've wasted trying to debug code that worked fine, but I'd use the kit form up here rather than the name. And okay, we also need the sterlings. I'm using the plural here just because I feel like it. You could call him Fred, you could call it John, doesn't really matter, but to use a name that makes sense when you're debugging it a month later makes it easier. Alright, so that will allow me to refer to all the batteries on the network by using this word, and all the sterlings on the network by using this word. Alright, now I want a couple of memory variables. Don't have to do this, you can use just R1, R2 and so on, but I find it easier when explaining the code. So I will use alias, battery level, and that we will assign to R10. I need another one, which I will call device status. Now this will end up getting used a lot, so maybe a shorter name would be better. Okay, so I think that's all I need. Right, so very first thing we need to know is what is the battery level. So batch naming method, we need the batch version of the command, so load batch into battery level from batteries. We want the ratio, because ratio returns a number from 0 to 1, 0 being flat as a pancake, 1 being 100% charged. And again, because it is batch method, we just throw in average at the end. So that will give us the level of the charge. Next thing we want to know is whether the sterlings are turned on. And bit of a weird thing, but the reason becomes apparent as we go through this. So load batch into device status. It could be like device on off or something like that. From the sterlings, we want to know whether it's turned on or not. And again, we have to specify average. So that'll tell me two things. The reason why we want to know that is we're going to use the value to determine what limits are. So for that we use select. So actually I'm going to add another variable. I'm going to call it trigger. Could be set point, could be anything like that. I just find trigger stands out a little bit better. Alright, so we want to select into trigger based on device status. So we will set the value of this based on whether this is a 0 or a 1. If it's a 1, it'll use this value. So when the sterlings are turned on, we want the cutoff point to be, let's say, 1. 1 would be 100%. Actually, let's make it a little clearer. Let's do 0.98. So when it's at 98%, it will turn off. Otherwise, 0.2. So next we're going to want to know whether the battery level is less than the set point or the trigger. So set less than, and again we can reuse device status at this point. We want to find out if the battery level is less than the trigger. Then it's quite simply using a batch command like set the sterlings on to whatever is set in device status. So a little confusing, but this is a 5-line Schmitt trigger. So in review, we're loading the battery level from the batteries. We're loading whether the sterlings are turned on or off. So right now the sterling is off. So we'll select into trigger. Device status is a 0. That means it's going to be using 0.02. So if the battery level is less than 0.02, device status becomes a 1. So we use that to turn on the sterlings. If this was equal to a 1, if device status was equal to a 1, then we'd be using this. So what that means is as long as the sterlings have fuel, the battery will always be between 20% and 98% full. That stops it going on and off if you just use a single less than. So we'll confirm that. Our batteries are fully charged. So we'll put this in here. We will export it. Right, just make certain sterling is on. Sterling is off. Okay, so the battery will drain down to 20%, at which point the sterlings will come on and they'll stay on until it's 98. Ooh, potato seeds. Right, this one I'll harvest because I don't want to use those. I'll just use the middle one. Okay, so that gives me some food. I do need to wire that in. Not an urgent thing. Alrighty, so that gives us control of power. So power should not be so much of an issue as long as we have hot gas. Next thing I'm going to want to do is keep an eye on the base temperature. At the moment we're at 30 degrees. That's kind of the high end of where I would like it. I'd like it to be in the mid to high 20s. So we're going to need a few things. I don't have anything of use in there. I have a single pipe. There, job done. Right, so I'm going to need to print up some more. Probably quite a few. Yeah, I'll print up 20 because I think I'll end up using some out there when we get to do the cooling. Don't know if I'll get to that today. And of course, if I'd thought about it, I would have had all of these things prepared. Right, and now I'm going to need some invar in there. Let me put that in. Right, and I need the invar for a digital valve. One of them. Going to need a bunch of pipe radiators. Right, I can get busy with this. The reason why I'm putting cross pieces on all of these is I will at some point be adding more vents to the inside. Right, pipe radiators. Oh, there we go. Pipe radiator. Need a little bit more gold. Right, this will live here, like so. I'm going to want some insulated pipe too. Right, I think they will do. Insulated pip. Just need a couple of those. Right. Oh, and I also need a liquid drain. Just the one. Alright, so this pipe is basically full of base atmo because we have a passive vent on there. I want the straight piece, and then we'll take it up through the roof. The reason for the straight piece is I want somewhere to put the liquid drain, and we want that to drain into the hab, because there are some pollutants and stuff in here, but mainly it's oxygen, CO2 and nitrogen. The oxygen and nitrogen will probably stay gas. The CO2, however, will definitely want to free or liquefy and freeze. So this is going to be the cold section of the pipe. Any CO2 that does liquidize or condense will come out here back into the hab, which, if I understand the mechanics correctly, will add further cooling. Right. For outside, I can just use the cheapy pipes. And let me dump a water bottle down here, so I've got some that will remind me to check on those. Put another couple up here, where they won't turn into ballistic missiles. And pipe radiators. Anything else I'm going to need? Yes. Not for the cooling system, but my propellant is down to 750. So I will need a way of filling that up. Okie doke. So I'll take care of that while I'm outside as well. Although not with 2 cable coil. I will need some more coil. And for that I need copper. I'll just let it print the whole lot. Just take what this has. 12 should be enough. Alright, close and lock helmets. Go to the outside with a fresh battery. And let's also drain this whilst we're here. Alright. Yeah, I'll probably put the jetpack filler here or maybe here. But first let's take care of the cooling. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I could go with a funky design here. Maybe I will. Because reasons. Well, I probably don't have enough pipe. So let's see. I need yeah. Yeah, I think that looks suitably silly. Yeah. Why the hell not? Okay, so that builds that. Of course, this is going to be empty right now, so not going to be doing anything, nothing to read, or no values to read from it. Yeah. Actually, do I have any more pipe down here? Do not. All right, we'll need some more. Okay, and I brought this down because this is bugging me. Wish we had triangular pieces so I could like smooth it out, but such is life. Okay. Put the welding torch away before I set fire to something. Alright, so now I'm going to need to wire that in. I need the wire clippers. Oh god, that's difficult to get at. There we go. Right, so that's the hardware done. Now we have to do the software. So temperature is 30 degrees. I think if you hold a tool in your hand, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Not certain what the issue is there. But it used to be able to read what the sensor said just by looking at it. Yeah, you get, and the reason why that was important is like with this pipe meter, you get the little helper hint come out. It'll tell you what the pressure and temperature is, but it tells you the temperature in Kelvin. I have issues doing math in my head because I'm basically old and stupid, so it's handy. Well, okay, code. So we will do it the same way as we did the Sterlings. Need a couple more defines. First I need to define the valve, the digital valve. I'm going to call it cool valve just because there's a possibility I may end up with multiple digital valves on the same network. Again, want to make certain you don't select the kit, always select the item. So define cool valve as that. Excellent. I also need to access the gas sensor. The gas sensor. There we go. Actually, I don't need that space. Actually, this one, just for clarity, I'll bring down. Reason being is I've got two types. I'm using define in two different ways here. When it's in block caps, and again, this is my naming convention, this is not required by the code. When I use block caps, that tells me that I am accessing a specific thing. When I'm using mixed case, that tells me that I'm accessing a something that I'm using as a basically a memory constant. Again, just my way of doing it. Right, so I want to define two things here. The maximum temperature, this has to be in Kelvin. I'll say maximum I want is 300 Kelvin. And the minimum I'll make, it'd help if I could spell, I'll make it 5 degrees less. So this gives us a 5-degree window. That's about 27, I think, and this is about 22. I think it's 273 Kelvin is 0. All right, so that gives me access to the valve, gives me access to the gas sensor, and it tells me what my minimum and maximum temperature is going to be. And even though I'm only going to use it in one place, I will assign a memory variable to hold the base temperature. This is more just as a explanation thing, something that I would actually use. Right, so first thing we want to know is the base temperature. So we'll load into that value, into the base temperature from the gas sensor. We want to know the temperature, and again, average. Then we next need to know whether the cooling valve, the digital valve, is turned on. So LB device status from the cool valve. Want to know whether it's on, and again, because it's a batch mode, average. So you'll notice I'm reusing some of these variables. I shall also be reusing trigger. That's because you use it here, it drops down, and then it immediately overwrites it with whatever the sterlings are. So you can reuse them that way. Okay, so next we will select into the trigger based on device status. Now here, because we were using the Schmitt trigger to bring the value of the battery up to a certain level, we do it this way round, maximum to minimum. With the temperature, we're looking to cool things, so we do it the other way around. So min temp, max temp. Then again, because we're doing it the other way around, we're not going to be testing for whether in this case we're looking to see if the battery level is less than the set point or trigger. With the temperature, because we were looking to cool it, we want to test and see whether it's greater. So set greater than device status, and again we're looking at the base temperature, seeing if the base temperature is greater than the trigger. Then we will set batch, cool valve. We want to turn it, control whether it's on or off based on device status. Okay, so it's exactly the same as this, except the minimums and maximums are reversed because we're operating it in effect upside down, and instead of looking at whether it is less than something, we're going to be looking to see whether it's greater. So that should be all we need. Right, so temperature is 31, so it's definitely more than 300 Kelvin. So we should see the cooling valve come on as soon as we update the code into the chip and put the chip on. Valve is off, click on here, valve is on. So what this does, it opens the valve, it puts base atmosphere in here. That being outside, it will cool down fairly rapidly. So that's at 17.8, this is at 29 and falling. Now, one of the reasons why I like using the pipe radiators is it's relatively easy to tune it. If you find it's cooling down too slowly, you can add more pipes, maybe add a bit more pressure in there and more radiators, and that will increase its cooling. Likewise, if it's operating too fast and you're overshooting your targets, you can take a few radiators off until it cools down at a rate that is sensible for your application. Okay, so there we have Schmitt trigger done two different ways, one to control the Stirling, one to control the base heating. So that should now hopefully safeguard my beloved potatoes from frost damage or anything else. I am going to redo this because I thought I was kind of silly the way I did that design. So I'm going to simplify that the next time I'm outside. Anyway, this is just a quickie. Very heavy on the coding, very light on the build. Sorry about that. There is more building to be done. That will be in the next episode, where we will get to grips with having a more robust cooling system for the steam and stuff out there. But thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. It's a delight for me to hear from you. Know that people are watching and finding the content useful. I will see you in the next one. 54 Bear out.